FO cut $10 million in funding to EDOs in December 2013, and from 1 July this year, EDOs will receive no federal funding. EDO lawyers have assisted community groups, private citizens and farmers in a range of environmental cases, basically around public interest environmental and planning law, relating to things like coal mining, urban development, water and air pollution and threatened species, just to name a few. I'm interested to know what review process did the Attorney-General's Department or the Attorney-General conduct in order to inform the decision to defund the Environmental Defenders Offices in December 2013?
Well, Senator Wright, I don't want to go over the discussion we just had before, and I'm sure many of these EDOs do good work, but savings, and some of them, many of them do good work, and some of them I think are less worthy, but nevertheless I'm prepared to assume that most of them do good work. But a decision had to be made about areas of savings to identify in this budget, because, as I have to keep reminding you, the previous government left the country bankrupt and the new government was elected to bring the budget back under control. Now, I made a decision that policy and advocacy work were less important in the access to justice spend than providing the limited resources available to actual people in distressing circumstances. In other words, casework. And I stick by that view. I think from a point of view of social justice, which I know your party often speaks about, it is more socially just to help a distressed person than to spend the money on a cause, particularly when there are many other advocates for those causes who don't rely upon that limited pool of funds.
So, Minister, if I can interrupt you, because I know time's brief and I'm conscious other people have questions. The review was essentially you coming to that view yourself, it seems?
Well, not in isolation. I mean, there was and Mr. Fredericks might...
well, you've had a lot of submissions from your colleagues on exactly the point you make.
So, Chair, you're contributing to the answer, is that right?
Yes, he is. Mr. Fredericks has been wonderful in helping.
Well, I just want to clarify first something that you said. It sounds to me as if there's a suggestion that EDOs don't have clients, and in fact my understanding is, and I've had a long association with Environmental Defenders Offices, is in fact they do. They do client work. They advise clients. Yeah. They advise real people, but these are people who are often taking public interest matters who are in distressing circumstances if there's noise pollution or air pollution that affect not only them but the community.
But
so
Senator,
arguably...
Senator, there's not enough money in the system to look after everybody who is being prosecuted for a crime or in a distressing family law matter, let alone small business people who fall into trouble. For example, there's just not enough money, so we have to prioritise by putting at the top of the list the neediest people. What's wrong with that?
Okay, so I see that I think what I understand you to be saying is that you don't value the work of public interest environmental and planning law as much as a priority over... That's what I'm trying to... because the client distinction doesn't really make sense in the sense that they do have clients. It's not just law reform and advocacy, but you're saying that's why they've been defunded totally. I'm interested in knowing the background to this, so I'll ask this question.
Well, no, I'll answer the question you just asked me.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
I think an impoverished person facing the risk, facing the jeopardy of being put into jail or in the distressing circumstances of a relationship breakup and issues like access and custody of children and so on, those people at their most vulnerable and distressed should be the first claim on the scarce resources. Absolutely.
Thank you, Minister. I'm going to ask you now a question that I think wouldn't translate easily to being on notice, and I'll have to ask some of these others on notice. So previously the Minerals Council has openly lobbied against EDOs. They have accused EDO lawyers of a campaign of economic sabotage, and that was reported on the ABC. The Australian newspaper reported that the New South Wales Mineral Council... Senator? It does come to a question, I think an important question that the public would be interested in knowing about.
The political statement.
No, this is actually the background I have to ask. So As the peak mining industry body in New South Wales, the New South Wales Minerals Council was lobbying the Federal Attorney-General to cease the EDO's funding. That was reported in the Australian newspaper in October last year. I'm just giving, these aren't unverified
Is the question,
assertions.
did they lobby the minister?
So what I'm asking is, what submissions, formal or informal, did the Minerals Council of Australia, the Minerals Council of New South Wales, or anybody who represents the interests of the mining sector make to the federal government
That's the question.
to support the withdrawal of funding from EDOs after the election? Very important question from the public
Yes,
interest.
all
I would
right.
have thought,
Well,
Chair.
I can answer your question directly. I don't know what approaches may have been made by those organisations to other ministers or other departments. It may be that they may have written to me, but if they did, I can't immediately recall any correspondence from them. As you know, when there's a change of government, many organisations in the community from all points of view make approaches to the new government to, as it were, put a point of view. I don't recall seeing any such communications from any of the organisations that you've mentioned, and I had no meetings with anyone from any of the organisations which you have mentioned in which I was lobbied in the manner for the purpose which you have described. So the answer to your question, subject to the qualifications I've made, is none.
All right, so I understand you can't recall. So
Well, I have no recollection.
No, you have. Sorry, you
I
have
just
no
want to
recollection.
allow for the possibility that there may have been a letter that, of the hundreds of letters that come into my office every day that I didn't see. But
I
subject to that
understood you the
reservation,
first time.
the
I
answer to your
understood
question
you the
is
first time,
none.
Minister.
Can I ask you to
I
take?
hope, Senator Wright.
Can I ask
very
you to
last question.
take that on notice?
No,
that,
I
that
won't
question?
take on notice a question that I've just given you a direct answer to.
Well, you said you have no recollection. That
No.
doesn't really answer the question. It may be that you were and you don't have a recollection
Thank you,
of that.
Senator
So
Wright.
I'm asking
We're not here as a
No,
debating
I'm not-
society.
No, I'm not
Senator
Chair,
Cameron,
I'd just
we're
like-
now moving
Chair,
on
I'd just like to know whether
Group
the Minister
3
is willing
National
to take that on
Security
notice
and
or
Criminal
not.
Justice
Well,
Program.
Will you take that on notice?
I'm
The
sorry,
public will be
Minister,
interested to
and
know.
I'm sorry, Senator Wright. We have finished that. We've had more than fair.
I don't have an answer to the.
Well, you'll
I'm
get
not
it on
clear.
notice if you put it on notice.